Hey everybody, we're back with Marcus from CarTurf. We did a video with Marcus before talking about his solutions for people that are looking to move to Europe, don't have residency yet, but would like to have a car to drive around. As most of you know, if you're following our channel, Julie and I, we're traveling around Europe with our two dogs, and we don't have residency anywhere at this point. And we've had our car for over 3 years as we explore Europe with our dogs. And so having a car in Europe when you don't have residency is possible. And Marcus over here at CarTurf is going to give you one of the solutions that's available for you out there, and it's a great solution.
I
And
think so.
it's a good option. So let's introduce Marcus. Marcus, hello.
Hi, Warren and Julie. Thanks for having me again. A lot has happened since we did our first video, so I just wanted to introduce briefly CarTurf again, and then maybe some of the new updates and answer any questions that you have. I know you have your solution in Bulgaria, which is a solid solution, and CarTurf is just another option for a lot of people. So CarTurf allows anyone to come to Europe, buy a car. We register and insure it under CarTurf, and then you are allowed to use it Europe-wide, worldwide. The question just comes down to insurance, and as long as it's insured and registered, then you're allowed to drive it anywhere you want. There's a question of getting across borders, and we've had quite a few customers go to Eastern Europe, Turkey, Ukraine, UK, Scandinavia. We have a customer who registered their vehicle here with us, shipped it to Canada and the US, another customer going to Africa. So there's a lot of use cases that we've tried and tested and gone through all the paperwork and all the scenarios that you could think of. It just gives people flexibility to choose their own vehicle, whatever vehicle they want, whether it's motorcycle, campervan, just a regular sedan. And it also gives them the option to work with us to get it prepared ahead of time. So those are kind of the two main benefits that CarTurf offers: the flexibility of any vehicle, driving it anywhere, having it insured, not worrying about the bureaucracy, and then obviously having it prepared before you go. Some customers come and purchase the vehicle, in Germany, and some we work with, they purchase it remotely.
So that's fantastic. So you just talked about camper vans and motorhomes. That's a big thing in Europe. And so you're able to assist someone with a camper van, a motorhome. They can get registration. I know there are a lot of places like the Netherlands you can go through. You can do something through that. You can do something through France, but your solution seems easier. So we've actually had viewers come to us that have gone through you, and they're really happy with what has happened, and they keep up with us. As a matter of fact, I heard from one today. So I think you're doing a great job. I think your solution is fantastic, and that's what we have to say.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we're driving our car Abby around, and again, we do it through a different solution because this was before CarTurf was around. But one of the benefits I think that your solution brings is we go to Bulgaria every year for our inspection, and if you're going through CarTurf, it's going to be a German solution, and you only have to go there once every 2 years. Is that correct?
For vehicles under 3.5 tons, yeah, it's just almost all of our camper vans. We only have one, oversized vehicle that's once a year. So it's a very kind of specific case, but all of the vehicles that we have other than that is under 3.5 tons. It's every 2 years you get an inspection. And in the last video, I think we discussed like going, do you have to come back to Germany every 2 years? So the EU has a standard inspection, standard for inspection, like safety and emission inspections, that in theory should work across the EU. In practice, it doesn't necessarily give the same exact format of the inspection report and things like that. But most EU countries have been issuing this inspection report that states specifically that it follows this EU standard. And so even if you cannot make it back to Germany, you can still do, we highly recommend doing it in an EU country where that report, it has a specific statement on there saying this is the direct EU directive that the standards were carried out according to. And you don't necessarily have to come to Germany to meet those standards in the inspection. You could do it in Croatia. We've seen an inspection report that's very similar from Croatia. Some of those distances are a little bit too far when you're several days drive away. So that is an option. You don't necessarily have to come back to Germany every 2 years to do that. But when you do come through Germany, you just have the inspection done because of the tags on your plate. So it's very flexible.
Okay. So now, with a car, if somebody's wanting a car, whether they want a van or they want a camper van or a motorhome, you can help them locate and purchase from the get-go. So when they hit the ground, they've got a vehicle in hand, or should they show up in the country first, go find a vehicle, and then work through you? What's the best way?
That's a good question. We've had a lot of both of those scenarios. I would generally recommend, if you're going on a shorter trip and you're maybe lower budget, I would say like maybe under 20,000 euros for your vehicle, or 10,000 euros or lower. It doesn't really matter what vehicle you get if you're just going for 8 months, because the time that you would spend potentially on hotels and just your first 2 or 3 weeks looking for a vehicle, on train tickets and going to different dealerships, it would add up quite fast, because Germany, you can't find hotels and Airbnbs for a decent amount. Really, it's between 100 and 200 euros per night. So you have to factor that in when you're making that decision. But if you're going, let's say, our customers who are getting a motorhome or a camper van, I highly recommend coming and checking those things out, because they're going to be here long term. Not here in Germany, but in Europe in general. So you really want a vehicle that you're going to feel comfortable with. You like driving. It has all the features that you want for 3 years or 5 years. In that case, I definitely recommend coming to Germany and spending at least 1 to 2 weeks. You can do a lot of the research before you come online, getting to know the market, and it's kind of you'll see deals that are too good to be true and things like that. So you kind of have to take that into account. But the more that you look online through online marketplaces, the more you realize, okay, I can get this and this for my in my budget. And then you kind of hit the ground running, where you have several dealerships that you're looking towards. So what we do is we don't jump in and necessarily take over the search for you. We want you to do the search, understand what you can get for your money, and then and what your absolute deal breakers are, features that you need, and then once you find things, some vehicles that you really want to pursue, we would jump in and help with communication with the dealer. If the dealership doesn't speak English, for example, you can't contact them by phone or email, like they're not answering. That's a big one. Just a lot of people will only take calls just because they get several calls for one vehicle and they want to sell it. So people sometimes say they're not answering my WhatsApp messages or my emails, and so we'll jump in, give them a call, and say, hey, we have a customer here. So that's kind of where CarTurf steps in the process, in the middle of your search, helping you understand maybe some red flags and things like that.
That's one of the benefits of doing Germany versus Bulgaria is we had to import our car into Bulgaria because there were a lot more options in Germany. So I would say for
Well, and I think that it's not that there's just more options and we didn't have to do it, but was because the cars in Bulgaria are more suspect, especially if you're buying used, at the actual history of the vehicle. Sometimes you could get a Frankenstein vehicle. So we imported from Germany, so we knew that when we imported Abby, we had a car that was from the same manufacturer, because we actually have seen cars in Bulgaria that were put together from multiple vehicles, and we've seen some of these chop shops out there. So it's not to slander Bulgaria or anything like that, but
no,
the if you're buying a vehicle in Germany from somebody in Germany, you pretty much know the history, or at least know that you've got
right.
a solid vehicle and not a rebuild or something.
And I think one of the things that's going to be really important to our audience is let's talk cost because, that's going to be number one with people. Hey, what is this going to cost me to do this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think after we've gotten quite a few different scenarios, we've launched different services, and we've seen, what people are really wanting to get, the types of customers that come through CarTurf. And I think the biggest benefit, of course, is the convenience and the option to do everything remotely if you want to buy the vehicle and have it ready when you hit the ground, when you fly into Europe. So we've priced our main service that most everyone chooses as our autopilot plan. It's 99 euros a month. And if you were to compare that to saying setting up a company in Bulgaria, or maybe anywhere for that matter, to buy a car under the company name, long term it would be more expensive long term.
Well, that's a really good point, because like we have our corporation set up in Bulgaria, and so what you are doing that differentiates is you're not doing a corporation setup, because you can't just come over as an American, Canadian, Australian and say, I want a car in Europe and throw plates on it in some country. You have to have a process. And so our original process was the Bulgarian corporation that we have in our name.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's worked out great for us.
It has.
But if you don't want to do a corporation, you're doing this without setting up a corporation and being able to not really put the car in the individual's name. They own the car, but it's going to be what's that process? It's not under a corporation, but and the car is owned by them, but it's you've got the administrative responsibility here.
Exactly. Yeah, we are the administrator, the authorized recipient, and the custodian. We're the entity that deals with the DMV, the insurance. We're the insurance policy holder. So the DMV in Germany, the DMV cares about who is responsible, who is the insurance policy holder. That's who we're going to put in the registration documents. A lot of people say, well, I want my name on the registration. In order for us to do that in Germany, the person has to have an address, and not only an address, has to reside in Germany, because the insurance
legal residence, not just reside. They've got to have the card that says they're a legal resident, correct?
Some form of residency, because the insurance stipulates that if you have to have a German address and live at that address as a resident for the policy to work. And some people will say, oh, I'll just do it through my relative or my friend in Germany. That's an option, really, if the car is in their name, because they're the resident at that German address. And so if the risk of not going through the resident or CarTurf or some entity in Germany, is that the insurance, if there's some kind of incident on the road, they could just say, you went against our policy and you're not a resident, so they could dispute the claim and say we're not going to pay out. Or so it was very important for CarTurf to make sure that in any case that you and your car is safe in any road incident, big or small. So that wasn't an option for us. So we opted to go the route with the autopilot plan, which basically means your vehicle is registered under CarTurf. We're the insurance holder. We're the custodian until you decide to sell the vehicle, until you decide to get residency somewhere else and register under your own name. A lot of our customers are in kind of a transitional period. They want to get residency somewhere in Europe. They're not sure where. And in the meantime, they can use CarTurf services until they kind of settle down. So I think that's some people don't like the fact that CarTurf is in the registration documents, but it's the safest way all around, where everything is insured and there's not going to be an issue if something were to happen on the road.
Well, that, I think it's important for people to understand that there are solutions that are not going to be, just where as simple as somebody wants. And I think what you're doing is about as simple as it gets. You provide the letter or the authorization for them to take this car across borders and to travel around with it, even though the car may be owned by them, but because you've got the administrative responsibility. And while that sounds a little awkward to people maybe from the United States or Canada or Australia coming over here to drive a vehicle around, it's the easiest and the most simple way of having what you want. And then as far as when somebody has that car and it's time, maybe they've had it for a year or 2 years and they want to leave the continent, is there a route for you to help them get that sold?
We have several options when you want to transition to either selling the vehicle or settling down and you get residency somewhere. Some people are looking for residency in Spain and Italy and all these other places, and they just have a vehicle. They need a vehicle in that period. And so once you have your documents and you want to move forward, we basically help the customer. We deregister the vehicle. We coordinate when to do that, then make sure they have the documents that they need to register in the new country. And if they want to sell, they can either leave it with us to sell or sell directly, maybe to somebody they know or come across. We are actually building out our CarTurf app. That's one thing. That's a new thing coming out, and it basically puts all the data of your vehicle, your documents into one central location, but also you can potentially, list your vehicle for sale for incoming CarTurf customers. But the app will be used, anybody can sign up and use it for their road trip. But for CarTurf customers, it will just simplify the whole process to.
I think the important thing is, like, somebody might want to come to Europe and do a road trip. And of course, you've got to worry about the Schengen. So if you don't have residency, you have to spend, you can only spend 90 days inside all 29 countries of the Schengen. Then you have to leave. And so you have to drive outside of the Schengen. So now if you were to try to do a camper van that you're renting somewhere and do that for like a year, you're looking at tens of thousands of dollars to be able to rent a camper van or a vehicle of any types. But if you just buy your vehicle and pay the amount here for your fee plus your insurance, you're running around Europe for a pittance of what it would cost to spend these, especially like a motorhome. And so, we had friends that did a motorhome, drove around Europe for about 2.5 years, and then they sold their motorhome. Now, granted, it did take them probably about 9 or 10 months to sell it, but they got all their money back.
They did.
And so that was so they had 2.5 years in a motorhome.
No
Not to say this will,
Christmases.
yeah, no, not to say this will happen for everybody, and it did take them a while to sell it, but they got, basically free transportation in a motorhome because they own their vehicle versus, going out and renting one of these vehicles
Yeah.
from a rental where that money's just lost and gone forever. And so, hopefully in the future, more people are coming through CarTurf. So when it's time for you to sell, you have the ability to just kind of swap out and get those funds recovered. But that goes with the car as well. I mean, I would say that we bought our vehicle 3+ years ago, and if we were to sell Abby today, we would probably get back basically the same price we bought her for. So it's a much better deal than renting, especially if you're trying to be in Europe full time.
Oh, and if we would have rented all of this time, I mean, some of our friends are paying €1,000 a month to rent vehicles.
And that's on the low side for a small
Yes.
vehicle.
Yeah. I've looked at, even before setting up CarTurf and launching it, and then now as customers come in with their questions about costs and things like that, one thing that surprises them, they think that our service fee covers the insurance. So I just want to make that clear that it depends on the vehicle you buy, how much the insurance and the road tax will be. So it's €99 for, our autopilot plan, plus on top of that, the insurance that you choose. We have liability, partial, or full coverage. So, and there's options within those as well that we can be flexible with. But still, when you add up our fees, our service fee plus road tax plus the insurance, it generally comes to between around like €300 on average a month to have your own vehicle. And so it's not a cheap thing to own a vehicle, plus maintenance and depending on how much you're driving around Europe. A lot of our customers drive quite a bit as far as transportation. But when you start comparing what you would spend on train tickets, like we were in Switzerland last week, and I have kids, so if you're spending, I don't know, I have 3 kids, but for the sake of argument, if you're a family of 4 and you buy train tickets for each person, plus you factor in just the inconvenience of waiting time, traveling on a slower, not being able to stop where you want, it's quite a good deal, honestly.
Oh yeah, I mean, we stop and have picnics on the side of the road and just love it. So I mean, there's a wonderful thing to having freedom in a vehicle and freedom of your timetable.
And as a pet owner, we travel with our 2 dogs, and putting our larger one, this is our small one here, if we put our larger dog into a plane, that's like costs more than another person most of the time, and it's very inconvenient. We don't want to have her getting tortured like that on a regular basis, so we drive them all over the place. It makes it so much more convenient. So if you have pets, it's a solution that you can still have your dream of travel and bring Fido or what's a good name for a kitty cat along with you. So Fluffy. So you can have your pets and still travel. And it's a solution. And of course, we do Airbnbs. But if you had your motorhome like our other friends did, they had their 2 schnauzers going around with them all over in their motorhome and going to little camping places. They even took it to Morocco and down to Turkey. So they were everywhere with that thing.
So speaking of that, do you know of any place that a person who goes through CarTurf could not go into? Can you go into Azerbaijan? Can you go into some countries off the beaten path?
Yeah, like I mentioned, we have a handful of customers going outside of Europe. So generally, our insurance partner, or any insurance in Germany, typically covers by default all of Europe, all of the EU plus UK, Scandinavia, all the way down to Eastern Europe and the Bosphorus Strait in Turkey. Depending on the level of coverage that you get, liability, partial, or full coverage, it's covered all the way to there. And then if you go into Eastern Turkey, you would essentially just get a policy just, for that country each time. Or you could go with another insurance provider that provides third-party insurance for non-local vehicles. So if you're, a German registered vehicle with CarTurf, then we have another partner where you can get insurance for Africa. And so the question really hinges on, do you have a policy when you enter the country to show? Can you buy it at the border? Can you buy it online before you go? It really depends on the country. So you have to kind of do your homework. But now we have a customer two customers starting their trip to Africa, and a lot of African and Asian countries require a carnet de passage. It's like a passport for your vehicle. So, you make a deposit in your home country where your vehicle is registered. So in this case, in Germany. And then every border that you cross, you kind of get it stamped so that they know you're not going to leave the vehicle in that country, let's say South Africa or some other African or Asian countries, and not, sell it. So it's just an easier way to kind of get in and out of countries. But there's no, we had a customer cross into Turkey, and they said she was at the border, and the border guard wanted the certificate of ownership that we provide to our customers. They said, well, it doesn't say Turkey on here. And so, she's writing us in WhatsApp, and I said, okay, we'll issue that right now. We reissued it and then sent it to her in WhatsApp, specifically stating Turkey. But other customers went through Turkey just fine. So it kind of depends on the border guard, and unfortunately, but we can go ahead and prepare all those documents ahead of time. If you say, hey, this is my trip, these are the countries I want to travel to.
So Marcus, thanks a lot again for giving our viewers another option. And if you do go to Marcus, please let him know Warren and Julie sent you over. And if you need to contact him, you can also go to our website, warrenjulietravel.com. We have a link directly to CarTurf over there. So as a reminder, Julie and I were traveling with our two dogs, trying to see what it's like to live in different countries, different places, trying to share our experiences, our expenses. And until next time, have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.